I still remember the exact moment my manager decided to humiliate me in front of everyone. Derek interrupted my presentation mid-sentence, his voice cutting through the conference room. Let's be honest, Sophia, anyone could do what you do. You're replaceable. The room went silent. My hands froze on the remote control. 12 colleagues stared at their laptops like they'd suddenly gone blind. Derek leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, smirking. In fact, I think we should discuss your performance issues. My throat tightened, but I didn't argue. I just nodded and sat down, watching him take over my slides, claiming my TechCorp wins as team efforts he supervised. After the meeting, I sat in my car and didn't cry. I opened my laptop instead. 6 months earlier, I'd started keeping records. Derek had taken credit for a pitch that saved our dying account with Dataflow Industries. When I confronted him privately, he'd laughed. That's how management works, Sophia. I take the heat when things fail. I take the credit when they succeed. Don't like it? There's the door. I couldn't quit then. Single mom, daughter's medical bills, rent due every month. So instead, I started documenting everything. Every email, every client call, every stolen idea. That folder had grown thick with evidence, organized by date and client. Tonight, I opened it and stared at years of proof. Then I opened my contacts and found the number Derek didn't have. Richard Chen, CEO of TechCorp, my biggest client. My finger hovered over Richard's personal number for a full minute before I pressed call. He answered on the second ring. Sophia, everything okay? His voice was warm, concerned. I took a breath. I'm leaving the company. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Silence stretched across the line. Then Richard sighed heavily. You're the only reason we stayed with your firm, you know that? Derek is... He paused, choosing words carefully. If you're leaving, we need to talk about our contract. I hadn't asked him to leave, I'd just been honest, but Richard kept talking. He called me last week trying to pitch some AI integration thing. We ignored it. That wasn't through you, was it? My blood went cold. What AI integration? Richard explained that Derek had contacted him directly, bypassing me completely, promising services I'd never heard of. He sent a whole proposal, said it was the next phase of our partnership. I thanked Richard and hung up with shaking hands. That night, I barely slept. I dug through my files, cross-referencing Derek's emails with our actual service capabilities. What I found made my stomach drop. Derek had been selling vapor to 3 major clients, services that didn't exist, features we couldn't deliver, all to meet his quarterly quotas. He'd been lying to everyone, and it was about to explode. The next morning, I sent an anonymous report to our ethics hotline with full documentation. I walked into the office like nothing had changed. Derek was laughing with the sales team, coffee in hand, looking relaxed. "Morning, Sophia," he said cheerfully. "Hope there's no hard feelings about yesterday, just business." I smiled. Of course, just business. At 10:47 a.m., Derek's desk phone rang. I watched him answer, watched his expression shift from confident to confused. He glanced toward the executive floor, then stood quickly. Through the glass walls, I saw him walk into Patricia's office, our HR director. He stayed there for 43 minutes. When he came out, his face had lost all color. He didn't look at anyone, just went straight to his desk and stared at his computer screen. I sipped my tea and got back to work. The next morning, I got the email I'd been expecting. HR requests a meeting regarding organizational structure, tomorrow, 2 p.m. I knew what this meant. They were fact-checking Derek's claims about my performance. That evening, James from accounting pulled me aside in the parking lot. Just be careful whatever is happening with Derek. He's been telling people you're mentally unstable, that you've been making errors. He's building a case to fire you. I thanked him calmly. At home, I didn't prepare a defense, I prepared documentation. Every client testimonial mentioning my name specifically, every revenue number tied directly to my accounts, every email where Derek claimed my work as his own. I also found something else, a pattern in Derek's emails about former employees who'd mysteriously left. The HR meeting wasn't what I expected. Patricia sat across from me with a thick folder. "Can you verify these client relationships?" She listed my accounts, all 12 of them. "Yes," I said. "I have documentation if you need it." Patricia's shoulders relaxed slightly. Derek mentioned these were team efforts he supervised closely. I opened my laptop without hesitation. "I have every contract, every pitch deck I created, every email chain I personally led. Would you like me to introduce you to the clients directly?" Patricia's eyebrow lifted. That won't be necessary yet, but I saw something in her expression. Relief. They weren't investigating me, they were investigating Derek. As I stood to leave, Patricia said quietly, "Keep your documentation close, Sophia." I nodded. I already was. Derek started acting strange immediately. He scheduled random check-in meetings. He'd appear at my desk asking oddly specific questions about client contracts. "Just refreshing my memory on Tech Corp terms," he'd say casually. I gave him surface-level information, nothing substantial. On Thursday afternoon, the main office line rang. The receptionist called out, "Tech Corp for Sophia." Derek intercepted, picking up his extension. "I'll take it. I'm her manager." I watched through the glass wall as he took Richard's call. Derek was smiling, nodding, but sweat beaded on his forehead. When he hung up, he immediately walked to my desk. "Tech Corp wants a meeting next week. You'll join me." I smiled. Of course. I already knew what Richard was doing. He was testing Derek. That weekend, James texted me at 6 p.m. "Derek was at the office all day. Saw him at your desk." I drove in immediately, heart pounding. My physical files were slightly out of order. Someone had rifled through them. I checked my computer's login history using monitoring software I'd quietly installed months ago. Someone had attempted to access my files at 3:47 p.m. They'd failed because I'd changed all my passwords after the staff meeting. Derek was panicking. He was looking for ammunition. On Monday morning, Derek presented what he called his innovative new strategy in the leadership meeting. I listened quietly, taking notes. It was my upcoming Tech Corp pitch, word for word. After the meeting, I emailed the original draft to myself and Patricia. Subject line, Archive, Tech Corp Strategy Q4 2024. Original date, September 3rd. Our CEO loved Derek's new strategy, called him into his office personally to praise his initiative, told him to present it directly to Tech Corp next week. Derek looked triumphant walking out. He caught my eye and smiled. I smiled back. Derek didn't prepare for the Tech Corp meeting. Why would he? He thought he had my strategy memorized. I prepared very differently. I called Richard and asked one careful question. What happens if someone pitches you something you've already declined? Richard laughed. We'd know they weren't listening. Why do you ask? I kept my voice light, just confirming our approach is fresh. The day before the meeting, Derek asked me for the final presentation deck. I sent him one, but it wasn't the current version. It was the pitch Tech Corp had rejected 3 months earlier. The Tech Corp meeting started at 10 a.m. sharp. Derek presented confidently, clicking through slides with practiced ease. At slide 7, Richard interrupted. "We already rejected this approach in July." Derek's hand froze on the remote control. "I believe we've refined the strategy significantly since then." Richard leaned forward. "It's identical, word for word. Did you even review the feedback we provided?" Derek's face flushed red. He looked at me. I kept my expression neutral, professional. Derek started improvising, making it worse. He promised capabilities I knew we didn't have. Richard stopped him. "I think we need to seriously reconsider our partnership with your firm." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Derek stammered, tried to recover, failed. As everyone stood to leave, Richard turned to me. "Sophia, could you stay back a moment?" Alone with Richard, I felt the tension leave my shoulders. "I'm sorry about that," I started, but he raised his hand. "Don't apologize. I asked you to stay because I want to see the real strategy." I pulled out my laptop and opened the updated presentation, the one that addressed every concern TechCorp had raised, the one that offered actual solutions to their new challenges. Richard watched carefully, asking questions, nodding. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Why didn't Derek present this? I chose my words carefully. Because he doesn't know it exists. He took an old version from my files without my permission. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. We have an opening for Strategic Partnerships Director. Interested? My heart raced, but I wasn't ready to leave yet. Can I think about it? Back at the office, Derek was in the CEO's office. The meeting lasted over 2 hours. I could see them through the glass walls, the CEO's expression growing harder as time passed. When Derek finally emerged, he looked like he'd aged 5 years. 15 minutes later, I was called in. The CEO sat behind his desk with Derek's presentation printed out in front of him. Derek says you sabotaged him. I'd prepared for this. I handed over my folder, time-stamped drafts, email trails, everything. The CEO reviewed